Talk about rest, I sleep when I'm dead. Motherfucker wanna come through tripping. Listen, I'm a ribbit, I'm a kung fu kick. Tell them I'm ready. If you want it, you can get it. If it's heavy, I'm a
Welcome everybody to TruExact Show. I'm here with Chris, who's fresh off of a New York Met loss and probably upset. Rose the Mermaid, who's fresh off of a Kansas City Chief loss and probably upset. Sorry about that. And our special guest, one of my friends, friend of the show, friend of the network. He was on our first Shark Week ever 2 years ago, and then our last one we kept in touch. Paul Clerkin from Alien Sharks. You've probably seen him on Nat Geo or Shark Fest, anywhere with sharks. How you doing, man?
Real good. Thanks for having me back. When you guys didn't contact me this last Shark Week, I was like, oh no, like what's up? Or like, are we still friends? What's going on? But you said you didn't do a bunch of shark stuff this year?
We're always friends, Paul, and I've actually was asked by like 3 of the people I had on previously, and I literally just texted them. I go, I'm sharked out. I can't do it this year. I just like I felt like I learned everything. I needed a year off. Really quick for the viewers, I know that when I do these shows, I have the highly touted Hawaiian shirts on, and I decided I'm a busy man tonight, and I didn't feel like putting one on, so you're going to have to deal with it. So, Paul, really quick, let's get into what you've been. I can't believe it's been 18 months since we spoke. It's wild how fast time goes. I'm aging like a decrepit old flower. It's miserable. My back hurts all the time. Anyway, enough about me. I digress. So, Paul, what have you been up to lately? Last time we spoke, you were going on a mission. I don't remember where exactly. Go on, man. What have you been up to the last year?
Yeah. So this summer, I spent a bunch of time on some of the boats that are doing research in the Atlantic. And then down through the Gulf. And we've been doing like, some basic, collecting basic biological data, sex length, maturity. We've been putting conventional tags out on those sharks, which are like, they're not the high-tech satellite tags, but they're just like external tags that have usually a serial number on them. And you can record what species the shark was. It's pretty low tech, but you can get some really good information. If the shark is recaptured, you can get how much it grew over an amount of time to get you a growth rate. You get some estimates on the population size, and it's also good for migration. Where you caught the shark versus where somebody else recaptured the shark. And on top of that, we're collecting water samples, which is probably less flashy, but it's for eDNA, which is something I'm excited about. It's relatively new. E stands for environmental, so it's environmental DNA, and you collect a water sample because sharks are always losing cells into their environment, so they're shedding genetic material, and so you collect a water sample, you pass it over a filter, and then you take that filter and you extract the DNA, and you can kind of figure out what species are there. You get kind of a species composition.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually it's pretty new. It's almost like forensic science. If you ever watch the old Forensic Files, and
Yes.
they have like a shirt or something, and they do like the whole like rub down. They try to find any genetic material on there. So it's kind of been around, but it's pretty new for biology, and it's really still developing, especially in like kind of marine environments, which are a lot more open. There's more flowing water and stuff like that.
That's really cool. So have you been close to discovering any new species, anything like that? Just to jump into the random sharks you look at.
So yeah, this was all close to shore, and no new species. There were some. I know, sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I just only ask, and I hate to jump the gun because anyone who's watched this the last 3 times you've been on, I've been trying to get you to name a shark after me. So like that's really where I go with this all the time. And I mean, one day it might work. Like let's say it's my last wish or something.
Like a make a wish thing. There might be. We're not sure if they're new species of parasites or not. The sharks get parasites, and they're just very poorly studied. So I showed them to a friend of mine who studies parasites, and so we're going to try to go through and do some genetic analysis. They might not be new, and in which case it would just be us contributing the genetic barcode to GenBank, the collection of genetic sequences. But there are like understudied parasites. for the deep sea stuff, I'm planning to go back next year to the Indian Ocean and look for the deep sea stuff. And when we go out there, it's usually about 1/3 of the sharks that we encounter are new species, and it's about I think it was once a week we were getting a new species on the boat. So yeah, it's gonna be 2 or 3 month trip, and I anticipate, you can't be sure, but I anticipate some cool new stuff.
That's awesome. I'm gonna pass it to Rose here because I know she loves sharks and we've had her on before. So go on, ask away.
Well, first I want to say that it sounds like you're gonna get a parasite named after you before a shark. So you might just want to take what you can get. Okay.
I'll take it.
I just want some name recognition.
I have an ego that needs to be filled. That's
right.
all.
I mean, and then I'm going to follow up that with I also want to be named after a shark. So if you could find a parasite, a shark, a virus, a seaweed kelp, you can lose the mermaid. I'm cool with that.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, actually, I have thought in the past, like, is it good to have a parasite named after you, or is that bad? Okay.
Yes.
100%. That's a legacy.
Yeah. You're around forever. Like, I'm sorry.
That's up for debate.
Yeah.
I mean, it did fine with Corona sales during the coronavirus, so I think it would be all right. Okay.
I'd rather have a parasite named after me than a park bench. I mean, like, there's like, at least you're around. A bench is gonna wither away. No offense to anyone that has a bench. I know it's memorial, but like, it's just I don't want people sitting on me.
Just offended a whole group of people, by the way.
I know. I apologize. I'll probably edit that out. But go on.
You can like buy a star and have it named after yourself for like $20 or something, right? Aren't they doing that still?
Yeah, but there's a billion stars. There's only a few new species of sharks.
I'm technically already named after a constellation. My first name is a constellation, so I gotta go somewhere different. So into the blue we go.
Not me. I'm named after a shitty third baseman on the Yankees from the 80s because my brother couldn't pick anybody. But go on.
Well, my parents actually named me after like some old movie back in the day, but the way they spelled it is after a constellation. So it wasn't on purpose. It's a happy accident.
That works.
So what's like the craziest depth that you have found a shark at?
I actually don't know the depth of a new species. But the boat that I work with, they fish down to about, I think the deepest was something around like 1,800 meters. So close to 2,000, which is, I don't know. We can just say that's like 6,000 feet.
So like a mile down.
Yeah.
Damn.
Right. Yeah, it is like 2 kilometers. That's about a mile.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my gosh, I can't even go a mile here on Earth, let alone.
Yeah. I don't even go in a pool that's more than 4 feet of water.
Right. I like to be able to stand up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop in here. So, as someone who is petrified of just the water and sharks, like my first biggest fear is being stranded at sea, and my second biggest fear is sharks.
I'd say they go hand in hand.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
So like I'm like the type of guy like where if I ever find myself on a cruise, I'd never let myself get on a boat. But if I ever found myself in that position, I'm like the guy that's like trying to drown himself before I could be stranded at sea. Like I don't even want the chance at survival. That's how petrified.
Jesus.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm terrified of it. I saw Jaws when I was way too young. So I was telling them before we started this, but it just freaked me out. So as someone who studies sharks and as someone who I'm sure is in the ocean a hell of a lot more than me, what's some tips to help me get
How
over
do I survive?
Just like being on a boat.
Well, like I could go on a boat, but like I don't want to. Like I have to be able to see shore. Like I can't go out. Like I would never go on like a cruise liner. Like it's scary. I'm petrified of it. So like I know I'm very ill-informed of everything that goes into like boat safety or like just like being in the water. Just I'm a land mammal, so I don't even think about going out there.
I can't wait till Paul texts me after this show. It's like, never have this kid on again.
I just thought this is more for my sanity, honestly. So, what can you give me like some tips, like some advice, just anything? Is there anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think because there's different levels, like being in the water versus like, being on a boat. I think commercial boats as a whole, you should treat it like it's dangerous. Like being on a commercial boat, it's almost like being like in a machine shop. You know, like it's just it's a lathe or a grinder, but if your sleeve gets caught in it, you know, it's dangerous. So just treat it like it's dangerous. I've worked on a lot of, I've worked on boats, the Atlantic, the Pacific, Indian Ocean, Bering Sea, south of the equator, all around the place. And you just gotta like, there's a lot of, I know people that have lost, fingers or toes or whatever to different machines. You just gotta be careful, man. Like, you just gotta treat a lot of like the mechanical things that they're going to kill you.
There you go.
So like in terms of like, let's just get into sharks.
Yeah.
How do I not get eaten by
no,
a shark?
well, like what's my like? I know like it varies based on the species of shark, but like, what's my likelihood of getting attacked by one?
0. Like, I mean, it's point something. Like, I mean, especially with you being on land, you have to be wet to be attacked by sharks.
Yeah, okay.
Paul, I've done 2 years of Shark Week. I'll handle this one. Well, it's pretty much 0, Chris. Go on. Sorry.
No, I mean that. I think it's one of those things. It is a fear because they're large predators, and I think it's also scary because they're like in the water, and we're pretty helpless in the water. It's hard to see. It's like it's a lot scarier than the actual danger. I think we just really can't accurately assess the danger versus the fear, because it is scary. If you think about it, there's something in the water that has big teeth. It can move faster than you. You can't see it. It's going to sneak up on you. That's scary. But like the chances of it happening are like almost 0. I mean, sharks are in the water all the time with people. People say the way that you test if there's sharks in the water is you taste it, and if the water's salty, then there's sharks in it. Which
it's I got you.
They're usually there. They can see you. You can't see them, and they don't really attack. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard all the statistics of like more people choking on hot dogs and being attacked, and more people like die from falling into holes in the beach than like interactions with sharks. So I mean, like, we're not scared of like when you see kids digging holes in the beach, but there is something scary about sharks. So, but your actual chances, you're pretty safe.
Yeah.
I feel
Are you good? Okay.
I'm actually. I was thinking about going swimming next summer. And
that's nice.
I'll feel a little bit more comfortable.
All right, that's good. I'm glad you put a 12-month plan on a nice dip in the pool. That's great for you.
I'm gonna go in the ocean.
Yeah. Your girlfriend's probably like, just try to get over your phobia. I'm trying to go to the beach next year.
Oh no, yeah, she tells me all the time. She's like, "Why won't you go to the beach with me?" I was like, I just would prefer to go pool.
What about like being in like wading, like in waist deep? Is that like,
I've been in the ocean. Like, it's not like I don't go in the ocean. It's just like, I don't like the idea. First of all, like the ocean itself, the way that it, like the tide, it can just pull you out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more dangerous
it's a riptide.
Sharks. Yeah. Riptides are responsible for it a lot more.
And can I chime in really quick? Sorry to cut you guys up, but like, this might freak him out. When we had Dr. Catherine McDonald on, who's a friend of the show as well, she said dolphins are more evil than sharks.
Oh, come on, bro.
Coherent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're more evil. We could verify that, right? Paul, dolphins are more evil.
It's widely accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you like that, Chris?
Do you want me to go in the ocean?
I was just saying, they say, what they say?
A new fear every time.
You know when they say like, oh, when dolphins are around, you don't have to worry. That's not true. Dolphins are evil because they're smart and they fuck around and play with their food for fun when they're bored. Anything intelligent is incoherently more evil than anything not. Am I right, Paul?
I mean, I feel like we talked about all the things they've been documented to do with like change the rating of your show. They've done some messed up stuff. And the idea of a dolphin protecting people from sharks or something is like, it's just from like movies. It's from like those old Flipper movies. It's never been observed that I know of, like in nature. But,
so now Chris moved his year plan to a 2-year plan for swimming after that. Rose, sorry, it was your question.
I'm gonna take his word for it. I don't think there are any dolphins in the Atlantic where I am anyway.
All right, I don't know about that. Rose,
is the water salty, sir?
Exactly.
Yeah, but is it?
I would actually pay for you to go out to one of these deep sea expeditions with Paul at this point.
It would never happen. Pay me $1 billion and I'd be like, nope.
I'll
Chris
do it
holding-
for free.
Chris holding a goblin shark. That'd be phenomenal.
We'll take baby steps. Maybe in like 50 years, I'll get on one.
Okay, I'll be dead by then. Rose, sorry, it was your initial question. Go on.
No, you're all good. It's totally fine. I'm more scared of when it comes to the ocean. I'm more scared of killer whales than I am of sharks.
Right.
That's my personal preference. I feel like sharks are just the dogs of the sea. Okay, like we're just chilling in their ocean, and
True.
they have right to protect their home however they want. If they choose to eat me, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
See how progressive my podcast has become the last 2 years? We accept things as they are. It's their home. You know what I mean? And I love it. It is. I agree with you. When people go in the woods and get eaten by bears, listen, that's that bear's home. You should be shitting in
Right?
it. That's how I look at it. Sorry about that. Once again, if I apologize if you know someone eaten by a bear. I don't wish that on anyone. That's horrible, but it is its home. And I'm just offending everyone. People who sit on benches, bears, jeez.
I'm
Christ.
gonna have a disclaimer at the bottom that
I
goes
know.
on like in the commercials, like we do not wish harm anyone that sits on
Exactly. No human was injured in the taping of this show. Only my feelings. All right,
Okay.
Paul, I do want to get in a couple of sharks because I know we did this, but it was like 2 years ago. And Chris is new and Rose hasn't been on with you yet. I do want to know because you've like held crazy looking sharks. I've seen pictures. It's not like I stalk you or anything, but what's the creepiest one you've seen? And you were like, all right, even that's a little creepy for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're anticipating weird sharks while you're out there. And it's like, okay, this is even creepier to hold.
I mean, so I've worked with a couple, a lot of deep sea sharks. I've held like frilled sharks, goblin sharks. I think the one that gives me like a little bit of actually it was a shark we worked with in 2020, and when you and me started like hanging out,
being friends.
That's right.
Yeah, best buds.
Yep. So it was the cookie cutter shark, and we were looking for him in
Chris, why don't you Google the image while Paul's talking?
Oh yeah.
Please do.
So yeah, and like we were like down there diving. We had like those little those walkie-talkie masks. And like it was it was diving at night in deep water, and it was like they're just like really efficient ambush predators. They're about they're less than the length of your arm, kind of a long skinny shark with large eyes, and they have the largest teeth to body ratio in the shark world. And and they ambush by taking a plug out. I mean, their diets are probably a little bit more diverse. I think they actually eat squid and stuff like that. But one of the things that they do is they'll take a plug out of a larger animal, which makes them technically parasitic. But they'll take out a plug and swim away. And like that just gave me the jeebies to think like I'm swimming around looking for the shark, hoping it's here, and like it could, it probably knows I'm here before I know it's there. And that one was a little bit creepy. We also interviewed somebody.
What do you mean a plug? Like you bite just to poison it and then come back around when it dies?
No, so they take out just a bite, and it's cylindrical. It's just like it takes out like a plug. That's why they call it a cookie cutter. It looks like a piece of tissue is missing. And there's different people. I think for a long time people thought they did a twist because it's a perfect circle. But talking to some people, including people that have been bitten by cookie cutter sharks, they think it's maybe more of a scooping motion of the lower jaw, which was the teeth. The bottom has like these huge, like kind of dagger-like teeth, and the top one have like more like the prongs of a fork. So they do maybe grip it and rip it.
It looks like it swallowed a spork, and it's just sitting on the bottom. I'm
looking at some pretty gnarly images right now. I know I can see exactly what you're talking about with the holes.
Super sharp melon scooper.
Right, exactly.
The eyes are pretty gnarly.
They have huge eyes that glow in the dark. They're like a green. They don't glow. They reflect light, very efficiently. But and like I don't think there's been any lethal attacks. I mean, for some reason, the idea of something coming up and taking a scoop out of me just gave me the jeebities.
I mean, I feel like the ocean at night is pretty scary in general. I've never been in the ocean at night. I live in Missouri, so I've only been in the ocean like 3 times in my life.
I feel like so many of the sharks that, like the lesser known ones that we decide to study, are like active at night. I feel like every time I'm on an expedition, I'm like, here I go again into the water at night. It's yeah, it's scary. It gets less scary, but it's scary still.
I mean, yeah, it's pitch black.
Yeah.
The first time you went out there, like at night, like what was going through your mind? I'm sure there was some excitement, but like, was there any?
You're like, why would you do that at all?
Why am I here?
I'm like, not in a million years, but like for someone like you who studies it and knows what he's doing, like how was that feeling?
So the first time I jumped in the water, like off a boat at night was on a field trip off Mexico. I was at a community college, Sacramento City College, on a field trip. They took us out on a little Zodiac, like an inflatable, and it was a lot of bioluminescence. So we all, we jumped off and swam, and that was scary. I swam back to the boat super quick and pulled myself out. And then I think the first time I did it with a shark at night was in 2015, and that was with the megamouth shark. And that was it was in commercial fishing gear. So it was a long line, and like I was telling you, that's the stuff that was really dangerous. Getting caught in sorry, not a long line, a gill net, which kind of snags everything. So I was really worried about getting snagged in that. And I was getting my gear on. There's a shark, and I almost couldn't believe that we caught it. They're super rare. And it was probably a 15 or 16-foot shark. And I was getting my gear ready, and I remember like looking around the boat being like, oh, I'm the guy that's in charge of safety. Like, it's my project. I'm like, I am too dumb to be in charge of, like, it kind of hit me like we didn't have a safety officer. It was like my plan. I'm like, oh, I might be too dumb to do this. But we're ready there. The sharks, I can't be like, nah, guys, screw it, I'm out. So
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah. Changed my mind. It's super dark.
Well, you and I had definitely really different community college experiences. You were jumping into dark waters with sharks. I'm sitting there trying to pass out mixtapes as a white rapper. It really, really different experiences.
I think college experience wasn't like either of those. I guess statistics.
Yeah,
Out here in Missouri, community college for us, if you have anything animal related, it's veterinarian stuff, and that's really just your hand up a cow's butt. And who wants to do that?
Well, let's not judge people here. I mean,
I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
No, I'm kidding.
People are gonna be upset. Bears upset.
It's over. This show,
now you're gonna upset all the ranchers. This podcast is just really inclusive.
I'm canceled. I mean, if I'm, it's over. The skeletons are out. It's over for me. I'm trying to be better. All right, I'm trying. Oh, Paul, you see, you get the worst out of me. Jesus, that's what friends do, though, right? Is what it is. I did have a question. Now, I'm not going to ask you about the Malaysian Flight 370 because I've done that before, and I wanted you to find the missing, plane that crashed in 2014. And you did. You were part of the rescue mission at first. We discussed that. How much you could tell us. We could talk off the air. But it is what it is. So I do want to ask, when you go up to the deep sea, you've been through all the oceans, like, what's the most difficult an area to navigate when you are out there? Is it the Indian Ocean? Because when that flight crashed, like they said, the waves were so bad they couldn't even get to what might be the wreckage. So how does that put like a wrench in your plans? Coin that wrench in your plans. I just made that up.
Yeah, I mean, so it makes it difficult. It makes it difficult to work. It makes it difficult to sample or even do anything on the boat when it's really rocking. I've never been really in charge of navigation on these boats, or it's usually if it's a research vessel, they have a crew that's in charge of that stuff, and then on the commercial vessels, they really know what they're doing. And so I have been so in that Indian Ocean boat. The boat was involved in like not trying to recover, but they were providing data because a lot of those seamounts are not well mapped. We go on Google Earth and you can see all the seamounts and everything like that. A lot of what we think are seamounts are actually estimated seamounts based on satellite images. The satellites, they use altimetry to figure out how the height of the water. And because the seamounts are so large, there's a slight more amount of water pulled in by gravity over those seamounts. And so over enough time, averaging out the waves and everything like that, they like start suspecting it's the estimated seamount. But as for like what's actually there, people were relying on the boat for their actual like mapping that they've done of the seamounts for their fishing. Yeah, but on that boat, I've been on some pretty like scary, rough seas, like, you know, really high, crashing over the boat. And on a trip that I was not on, they said they were like, you know, just trying to keep the boat from getting tipped over, and they saw another capsized boat just going by. Like,
That's devastating.
I know,
What an image that is.
I know.
Don't
You're trying
worry,
to,
guys, we'll be all right. And then you just look to the right. Oh boy.
like,
yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
said like they said they couldn't even. They were trying so hard just to, because, you know, you have to keep your bow into the waves. If you go sideways and you get in the between the trough and the peaks, you get all messed up. And so they said that they couldn't even stop to help if, you know, because they were just like trying to keep themselves from rolling.
Well, luckily you've never been in a situation like that. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you, Paul. You're our resident shark expert here, you know? And maybe one day if I retire or something, my wife allows, I will be able to go on a deep sea mission with you if I sign a permission slip. Is that still a thing?
I guess your wife would have to sign a permission slip. Is that what it is?
Right. Yeah. There's no way. I doubt you could just bring random people like me, Chris, and Rose, right? You'd have to get like some serious liability signatures.
You know, probably. I think on the research, I was on a NOAA boat this summer, and yeah, it was a lot. You know, you have to get security clearance. I needed to get fingerprinted, which I hadn't done before, and they need to, you know, they need your vaccines, you know, tuberculosis and all that stuff. So it is pretty intense for NOAA, which is, you know, a government organization. On some of these boats I've worked on, it's been almost nothing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the larger boats, but some of the smaller boats are like, yeah, hop on and just go out. And,
Rose, yeah, next time he's in Florida doing, we just missed each other in Florida actually. What, 2 months ago? We just missed each other. You were there the week before doing some research, so that would have been awesome. I could have just hopped on the boat, be like, "I'm sorry, I'm going shark hunting today. Not hunting, not hunting, not hunting."
Go to the marinas and start asking, "Are you a shark? Are you a shark expert? Are you a shark expert?
Yeah.
Can I get on your boat, sir?"
Yeah. Listen, I know Paul Clerkin. I don't know.
You have to know this. I know Jasmine Graham, so she said it was okay. Here's a picture of us together, like
throwing people out, but that's awesome, man. Really cool to hear again. We'll do a final. I do have a couple of questions, but I want to go around one more time though. Rose, you got anything?
Yeah, I was curious. What is the process of even just finding a shark? Like, regardless if it's a brand new one or not, what's the process that you guys go through whenever you do go out?
Yeah, I mean, that's one that I think I kind of get credit for, and I shouldn't a lot of the time with the new species. What it is, you know, the fish are out there and they are very talented in, like, you know, their navigation. They have all the data for where the seamounts are, and they go out there and they fish, and then they'll catch these sharks as bycatch. They catch it by accident, and if they're alive, we put them right overboard without, you know, with as little stress as possible. And the deceased ones will study, and those are the ones that are new. And so that's really it's kind of a combination of the fishers knowing how to fish a very difficult to fish area, and the fact that very few people are studying deep water sharks, especially in the offshore Indian Ocean. So there's also a lot of new species of fish and invertebrates, and I have a lot of specimens that I've been like kind of trying to work on, but we also are still working on the sharks. So
how do you catch a dead shark?
Well, they're caught as bycatch, so they swim into the nets when the net's getting towed through the water. I guess they don't swim into it. The net scoops them up, and while the pressure change is really hard on fish, it's not so hard on the sharks. But what is really hard is all the fish getting piled on top of the shark. So the temperature change is probably the largest environmental change that's hard for these animals, but it's really having a lot of fish piled on them that they can't move and they can't breathe, and by the time they get to the surface, a lot of the time they're suffocated.
I was like, man, he just threw a line in there and it was alive and he felt the bite, and then by the time he pulled it up,
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's how we fish out here. I'm from Missouri.
Well, you know, they're caught as, you know, mortality is, you know, a problem with a lot of commercial fishing, whether it is on a line, because sometimes on the long lines, if they leave them out too long and the sharks are obligate ram breathers, if they have to swim to breathe, they can suffocate before the lines are retrieved. Same with the
man.
So yeah, if you are targeting sharks for research, you really have to make sure that you're not leaving any of the gear out too long to try to minimize the sharks from, you know, from suffocating or even getting stressed. Because if they fight too hard for too long, they can die after you release them.
Jeez. One of the things I find very humbling with speaking to you guys, and I really enjoy, is a lot of the shark experts I've spoken to. You don't necessarily you tippy toe around, which is good. Around insulting like other cultures who need to eat fish and things like that in order to survive, and you don't necessarily like bash them as far as like you activate not being harmful to sharks or whatever, like but as far as like other cultures that need to eat them for sushi and whatnot to survive, you guys are very careful, and you don't go out criticizing those cultures, and I find that awesome too. Like you guys are very open to people might have to eat these fish species to survive, so I think that's really cool. Is that something that's kind of widely accepted in the shark field, that okay, we're gonna go out, we don't want anything to happen to them, but we have to understand, and not like finning, I'm not talking about finning or what they do to the dolphins, but just in general, like, is that pretty widely accepted that there are going to be people who need this for food,
Yeah, well, thanks first of all, man, for mentioning that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, especially if you get away from the advocacy and more on the science side, it's more about like how you can properly manage fisheries, and whether I mean, so when it's by.
Oh boy, he was trying to speak his mind and they cut him off. Look at this. This is Big Brother watching. This shit right here is Big Brother watching. Paul, you got cut off. Go on.
Okay. I mean, one of the largest threats to sharks is bycatch, is being caught. Some of it's being caught on purpose, but a lot of the time it's being caught by accident and them dying. Sometimes you're sold anyway, and sometimes you're discarded at sea. But that's a major impact. And so, I think mitigation of that would be huge. And I think also figuring out better management and different policies is big. So I think a lot, sharks is one of those things where, if there's a small community that relies on shark meat to survive, you can argue about it ethically, whether we're comfortable with it or not. But fishery wise, that is such a smaller impact than large commercial efforts, whether it's finning or just bad fishing practices that catch a lot by accident, it's even there's technological solutions. People, it's been like turtle excluders have been around for a long time. I know people are experimenting with like different kinds of lights that scare away fish that they don't want to catch. And I was talking to somebody earlier this week about they want to put cameras down in the mouths of the net that have like AI in it that can identify the sharks. So when it has too many sharks in, it will open the net and spit them out, and then close, and they can go back to fishing.
Wow,
that would be so cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a great idea. Yeah, I came from this conference, and it's like they do so much high tech stuff. It's like out of control. But one of the talks that I saw today, and I know I'm derailing a little bit, but
it's fine. Go on.
The title of the talk was heterogeneous swarms of underwater robotic fish, and they built like this swarm of robotic fish that they communicate to each other, not like with like a radio signal, but they put LED strips in the side, and they like flash different codes to each other. They have like this little electric field around them so they can tell how close they are to each other. And it's just like they made like a robotic swarm of fish. They're still like, I think they're, sorry?
Was it just for fun, or was it like for a research purpose?
Well, so they have them that they can hook up to, they call them sinkers and floaters. That are like two receivers and transmitters. They can receive data from the fish and transmit it out. But they're saying they would be useful. They're autonomous, so no one, you know, you don't have to control them. They can go out there and collect their own data. And they said they can also be used in areas that where there's no access to like GPS. There's no satellite or anything like that. You could send them out by themselves. So yeah, I mean, I only saw the talk for a few minutes, but I'm like, what are we doing? Like that's, you know, that's like
awesome.
yeah, it's crazy. And like they had pictures and videos of it. You know, it looks like a little robotic fish.
That is so cool.
Oh man, technology is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to save the oceans, okay? Take my money.
Right. No, I mean, I think, you know, we're gonna rely on our oceans for a lot for food and, you know, for protein from fish for a long time. And I think, you know, probably better policy is a big thing, but also better, you know, better technology, you know, so we can still get the food that people need. Because the idea of like not eating fish, which I think is sometimes proposed, is you know, pretty impractical.
It is. And I read one of the guys we had on last year who we kind of keep in contact. I read David Schiffman's book, Dr. David Schiffman, and he kind of mentioned the bycatch and stuff, and like it was a good book, Why Sharks Matter. It was really good. I actually read it on a beach in August. You know, it was kind of weird. Right? See, I go on the beach despite my poor body.
Okay,
I go on the beach. I know it is what it is. You know, but I was hammered too. I drink a lot on the beach.
Well, I got one last question for you, and it's not a, you know, talk me off the ledge kind of question.
Thank God I jumped.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
I was wondering. So I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I'm almost 100% positive that not even close to like half of the ocean is discovered yet, right? And it's not even like explored or nothing because we don't have the technology to.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I think we think that it is more explored because we have like those sea maps with the seamounts, and that's just, you know, altimetry. The number that people say is 80% is unobserved and unexplored and unknown of the sea floor. But if you think about it, you know, the ocean is three-dimensional, and if you compare our ocean's three-dimensional space, you know, most of it being the deep sea, depth beyond 200 meters, it makes up the vast majority of our like the livable space on Earth. It's something people estimate between 90 and 99.5% of livable space on Earth is in the deep sea, which, you know, is interesting to think about. We're really like a deep sea planet.
Yeah.
Hello.
I was like wondering because I was like really obsessed with Atlantis when I was a kid. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, cool, man.
You're still a kid. You're 22. Calm down.
Scott, right?
23.
No, but like just the idea of like maybe having people that are just like down there, because like I've looked into like stuff like that. I would never want to live down there, but like just like the idea of it is like pretty cool. And like I was just wondering do you think we'll ever in our lifetime get the technology to maybe go down there, or is that just like an unachievable goal for us?
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, like how deep and for how long? There's the what's it called? Aquarius, the station that's underwater, and people I think live down there for a couple of weeks at a time.
Jeez, that's not. You know what? I'm with you, Chris. I would not want to do that.
I do that right now. I'm an Aquarius, and I'm like, sign me up. This was made for me.
Yeah, it's probably pretty cool. You can like see fish out the window. There's a bunch of pictures. I remember, I forget where I heard it, but they were talking about like what happens if it like catches on fire, and they're like, don't worry, you know, like everyone will just be like compressed to death in like a fraction.
Quick death. It's all good.
That's not a good thing.
It's a quicker death than a shark attack. I'm letting you know that right now.
That's a fair point.
I'm just thinking about it real quick though, because if you think about how technology has progressed from the year 2000 to now, it's like leaps and bounds from what it was.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think in another 20 years, like, you know, keeping up with the same, you know, train, we should be leaps and bounds ahead of where we are now. So like just the idea of like just exploring more of it, because I'd rather explore the sea than space personally, even though I hate the sea.
That's
Oh,
fair.
yeah, I
Just
agree.
because this is our planet, like we should know what's on our planet before we go see what's on another one. So
I feel like you've had this argument at a bar before,
I
Chris.
have.
It's yeah, it sounds like you've had this argument.
I'd rather deal with sharks than like crazy aliens. You know, it's just my personal preference.
Well,
Oh
I do
yeah, I
have
mean, oh,
gone.
go ahead. No, I was going to say a lot of our research has been like technology limited, and technology has been developing at an exponential rate. So we have like I have like a ROV over here that I use like for fun, and the idea of owning and operating ROV, a decade ago would be crazy. It's just everything's really accessible now, and especially some of the large groups that are making like those $6 million ROVs, and then you can just send it down. There's definitely the potential to learn a lot more, and I think it's going to be good. Like we're also finding new resources down there, so it's probably something that's going to be important for us.
We're with a couple young whippersnappers here, as I like to say, Paul. They don't understand what it was like trying to figure out an AIM screen name growing up. That was very stressful, guys. You have no idea what that
I
was
still
like.
knew about the AOL and how you couldn't be on the phone at the same time as the internet. So I can,
Yeah.
I'm a
All
little
right.
bit.
I have no clue
Chris.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about.
Grandma
AIM.
uses AOL still.
Yeah, well, I still have an AIM email because I refuse to change. I stick to my guns. It's kind of crazy.
Nice.
Paul, I do have one last question. So we had on, look at me name dropping. I feel like the rapper Game right now. I'm just name dropping. We had on Diego Paul. He's the archaeologist who actually discovered Titanosaur out in Argentina, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he said that if you discover like a fossil of a dinosaur, you can't make money off it if it's in a certain country. So when they discovered the largest dinosaur fossil ever to walk the earth, Titanosaur, they made $0 off it because of the country it was in, which just sounds absurd to me. So like when you discover a new species in a certain area, let's say ocean, do you make profit off it, or is it where it's at the time, and different borders have different rules for it?
Well, I actually, I mean, I never make money off of it's just a scientific discovery. Then you write it up and you publish it, and publications are kind of the currency in academia.
Okay.
But it depends on where you are. I work in the open Indian Ocean, which is like one time we got chased by pirates. So there's not a ton of like,
Chris is like, all right, I'm not doing that either.
I'm in the wrong profession.
Yeah, so it's the Wild West out there. We land in a country called Mauritius, which is a small island nation, 560 nautical miles east of Madagascar, and we do it all legally. We get like the paperwork, and then we get the paper. We usually talk to a local institute and in Mauritius, and then one in California, or one in the U.S., and then we ship everything with paperwork. But there are some countries that, because it can be an issue with foreigners showing up and taking kind of scientific resources, that they feel like their local researchers should have access to. So some countries do not want you to take resources. Like I remember, I think it was maybe Japan or someone, that you could take tissues, but you can't take tissues intended for genetics or something like that. I forget that, it is kind of as like an academic resource. They want to protect it so that, their researchers can have access to it. And in some places it is a serious problem. You have researchers show up and take a ton of specimens from an area that has, less funding for these studies, and then they disappear with it. So I think a lot of the time people try to work with local people and help benefit, or you can at least deposit the specimens in the local collection and stuff like that.
Awesome.
As for making money, I've never made any money from these things, but
sorry. Even if you have, I don't want to hear about it. Just do your thing. Get some money on the side. You guys deserve it. So that's all from me, Rose. If you got anything else.
Do you guys ever clone sharks?
Like, I can't speak on that.
I mean, like the ones that are dead, and they want to like find information about them if it's already dead. Could you bring it to life?
Jurassic Park style.
I would love to clone a shark. I have not. I mean, I think. I think there's, a lot of, what's it? I don't do anything with any cloning. But I think there are like, restrictions on what you can and can't clone. And I don't know where it lies with sharks. We all remember Dolly from whenever that was a while ago. But yeah, I think there's a lot of like, ethical debate and restriction on what you can and can't clone. So I don't know if it's legal or not, but I don't know of anybody doing any efforts to clone sharks. I have heard of, very like low tech kind of, well, not low tech, but like small, like cloning for like diets. They'll take like a diet and they'll technically like kind of clone it. They'll get bacteria to like replicate the DNA in it so that they can take that DNA and sequence it and see what it's been eating. If that makes any sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. I was just wondering if they're cloning sharks and bringing like shark populations back up, because I feel like that's something we should definitely do, is bring shark populations back up with clones if we can.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm super on board and like cloning together a bunch of different species and giving them laser cannons and like,
Awesome.
jets and stuff.
Maybe bring Megalon back a little bit. Have fun with that one.
Now we're talking. Anything to make anything to scare Chris more of the ocean, I'm all about.
I have a Megalodon too, so if we can clone, I have a Megalodon too. So whatever we got.
So I think one of the issues with cloning things for populations is it's so expensive to clone any animal. The idea of cloning and releasing them into like the vast ocean to do to replenish their population, it would be tremendously expensive to get a couple of individuals out there. So I think that's something, even with like when people worry about cloned beef and stuff like that, they're not actually like cloning the cow and selling you the clone. They clone a specimen that they really want to reproduce, and they keep it to reproduce. As far as I know, I don't actually know anything about how they raise beef. So,
and we don't want to offend any more people here.
Well, I'm like, this is a beef cloning expert. He's like, that's not how they do it. Like,
I mean, yeah, go on, Chris. Anything else, or?
No, honestly, like, I'll joke aside. Like, you definitely made me feel a little bit safer.
Oh, come on, you were supposed to make them scared. You were supposed to.
No, a little bit. No, because like knowing the numbers helps a little bit. Like, I've looked into them myself, but like hearing it from a professional makes me feel a little bit safer.
I'm sorry. I know you would be the collateral here, but it's almost like it would be kind of crazy if Paul texted me 5 months later, "Hey, how's Chris doing? He got eaten by a shark." I mean,
like, Chris isn't doing the show anymore.
And then he named the shark after you.
Because you took his advice with numbers. We're like, I feel confident now. It would be kind of
legacy as a shark.
It would be a wild story. I'm not rooting for it per se, but I think
not rooting against it.
All I'm saying is I can't control it, and it would make quite the story. That
would be pretty story.
Yeah,
you get eaten by a shark after talking to shark expert about how safe.
I'd be like a joke.
Don't do it. Even if it happens, don't mention Paul at all.
I won't. It's not like this. Well, this is out there. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. No, all right, Paul, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. Listen, we've kept in touch for 2 years. You have Instagram. I know you're not on social media a lot, Instagram, Twitter, but you hate social media. I know we talked about it.
I'm just bad at it. I just don't
You're
understand.
You're just bad at it. We're from the AIM, guys. We're from the AIM era, all right? We're the screen name era. That's why we're bad at this stuff. So if you're ever in Kansas City, though, Rose, I'm sure you can message him and around that area, try to go out on a boat with him. I know you've met the MISS girls out there, so that'd be pretty cool if you guys can meet up. Paul, if you're ever on the East Coast, Chris and I will gladly go out to the ocean with you, look at some cookie cutter sharks, goblin sharks, or whatever you want to look at. Maybe one of us will make it back. Maybe one won't. Other than that, man, really appreciate it. Catch Paul probably on Shark Week, any shark shows, alien sharks. My wife sees you sometimes on TV and she posted on Instagram, "Oh my God, my husband's friends with him." And I'm like, Paul, it is what it is. Very humble guy I am. So we'll definitely keep in touch here. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me. Let me know anytime. I'd be happy to come back and hang out.